It's Monday, August 31st, and this is now on HNN.
The state is reporting a record number of new COVID-19 deaths today. This as the heads of the health and public safety departments announce they're leaving their posts.
Yeah, if the city doesn't coordinate its efforts with the state, it's going to be a cluster, you know what.
The Trump administration says all options are on the table to address violent protests nationwide. I'm Natalie Brand at the White House with how the president's planned trip to Kenosha, Wisconsin is facing backlash.
The death of actor Chadwick Boseman is shining a light on colorectal cancer. I'm Tom Hansen with how the disease disproportionately affects the Black community.
These stories plus the latest on those dangerous dry conditions that are creating a big brush fire hazard across the state. That's coming up on This Is Now. We begin with breaking news coming into the HNN Digital Center. Hi, I'm Jonathan alongside Ashley here. A big shakeup in the Ige administration, but first, new numbers from the Department of Health showing a record new number of coronavirus cases.
Hey everyone, health officials say 7 more patients with COVID-19 have died, bringing Hawaii's death toll to 70. We're told 4 of the fatalities are on Oahu and 3 are on the Big Island. DOH is also reporting 133 new COVID-19 cases today. The breakdown by county shows 107 are on Oahu, 24 are on the Big Island, 1 is on Maui, and 1 is a resident who was diagnosed out of state. Also new at noon, Governor Ige announced State Health Director Bruce Anderson and Public Safety Director Nolan Espinda are both stepping down. The governor says both directors are retiring. The news comes amid widespread scrutiny over the state's response to the pandemic and a huge outbreak at its largest jail, and in the wake of calls for Anderson and Espinda to resign. The governor says Espinda's retirement is effective October 1st, and Maria Cook, the deputy director for administration, will be temporarily assigned while Espinda is on personal leave through September. An interim appointment to lead the public safety department will be announced in the coming weeks. Dr. Anderson's retirement is effective September 15th, and Ige says he has appointed Dr. Libby Char to serve as DOH's interim director. Her appointment is subject to Senate confirmation. Meanwhile, we spoke to Lieutenant Governor Josh Green earlier today, and he did not hold back his criticism of the health department.
All right, let's move on to contact tracing, because I'm sorry, there's no question that this has been a huge mess up by the state. And I don't know exactly who is responsible for this, but we knew about this months ago, had plans to put this in place. Do you think that the state and city should somehow coordinate their efforts so that maybe we can actually get this done?
Yeah, if the city doesn't coordinate its efforts with the state, it's going to be a cluster, you know what. So we can't have that. We have to have 400 to 500 contact tracers active full time. You asked who messed it up. Well, the Department of Health had to do better. Dr. Sarah Park did not feel committed to contact tracing in the numbers that it was necessary. That's a fact. Everyone knows it. And we needed Director Anderson to put his foot down and make sure that program got activated completely. We got lulled into a sense of complacency because in May there were very few cases, but if you looked around the world, you knew there was going to eventually be a surge when we opened. And so I know it's Monday morning quarterbacking, but that should have been done. If we had done that, we would be opening on September 1st to our travelers, and we would have tourism up and running. That's just true. So hopefully the city, which I think the mayor said he wants to do 250 to 500 contact tracers, he will put those resources in play. They can hire the 400 people that were trained at the School of Nursing. Senator Schatz helped with that, which was excellent, and we're just ready to go. The convention center has the facility and the capacity to do it, and that is doing better than it was 2 weeks ago, but there should be no excuses. I am going to make sure that they don't block, or whoever the new leadership comes in does not block contact tracing and testing. That would be unacceptable. And it can't just be the director of health that has to change. You have to actually look at Dr. Park and others. If they're not willing to do tracing and testing, then they should find another role. Very intelligent people, but they missed the boat on what was the most central thing a Department of Health can do, as everyone knows across the world.
First we had reduced gathering sizes, especially on Oahu. Then we shut down the beach parks. And now we have the stay-at-home order, but the numbers we're seeing are still really high daily. Why aren't the numbers coming down?
I think we had a critical mass problem. We had so many cases that had finally built up that even with restrictions, we were just kind of hovering and simmering at the same number. Had we not done a stay-at-home order and had we not stopped the beaches and the park gatherings, we could have been up at 400 or 500 is my guess. Now we are seeing the effects. I'm very hopeful that going from 310 down to 200 between Saturday and Sunday is meaningful. Some people say we get less tests on the weekend. Well, we actually counted 2,800 tests yesterday. So I think that we have now seen the beginnings of the trend downward, and that will help keep our community alive.
We've learned that 1,000 people who tested for coronavirus this past week on Oahu will need to be retested because of a labeling mistake. The Department of Health and Human Services says a mainland company did not properly put identifiers on test vials from the surge testing site. Those vials arrived at a lab on the mainland without completed labels. Meanwhile, the state is still waiting federal approval to use the H3 freeway as a surge testing site.
The H3 was the best of all. It gives us that 5-mile run up on both sides of the tunnel. It gives us a tunnel that we can use as a testing site. And it also gives us the state offices there as staging areas for all of our testers. So we thought it was a no-brainer to look at this option.
If the feds sign off, the freeway closure would happen tomorrow and Thursday in both directions between 5 a.m. and 6 p.m.
U.S. Senator Brian Schatz is calling on local officials to take more decisive action to address the pandemic. In an editorial submitted to the Honolulu Star-Advertiser, Schatz said it was, quote, a shock that the Department of Health did not hire more contact tracers while case counts were low. He said most of the Federal CARES Act money designated for testing has not been spent yet. If it's not used, the money might have to be returned to the U.S. Treasury. Schatz is also calling for a statewide mask mandate and wants people to be allowed to exercise outdoors. Meanwhile, Dr. Deborah Birx, a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, is urging Americans to wear face coverings around family and friends so the nation has fewer cases in the fall.
We find that when people gather together in private as family members and neighbors, they make assumptions that there couldn't be anybody that has infection there. And then they don't wear their mask and they interact together. And that creates spreading of the virus among family members and among neighbors. So not only is the virus real, the consequences of the virus is real, the hospitalizations that we still have every week is real, the number of Americans that we have lost to this virus are real, but what is also real is we have a way to prevent its spread.
Okay, we want to spend a little time now here on This Is Now talking about the death of actor Chadwick Boseman. His passing actually highlights the disparities among races when it comes to colon cancer. Tom Hansen reports from New York.
The death of Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman at age 43 from colon cancer hit many people hard.
Why him? And why not me?
Like Boseman, CBS News contributor Ibram X. Kendi was diagnosed with colon cancer in his 30s after experiencing months of symptoms.
I thought I was healthy. If my wife, Siddiqa, did not more or less order me to get a colonoscopy, then I would not be here right now.
From 2012 to 2016, colorectal cancer rates in Black people were 20% higher than whites. And for colorectal cancer death rates, that number jumped to 40% higher. Dr. Daniel Labo treats colon cancer patients at New York's Mount Sinai Hospital.
The racial disparity and the racial differences in treatment really go across the entire spectrum of the survival and the outcome with that treatment.
Some medical organizations recommend that African Americans get colorectal screenings at age 45 instead of the general recommended age of 50. But over the last decade, a growing number of cases have been detected in even younger adults.
If you're a young person, the actual incidence of the disease is still quite low. But if you have symptoms like bleeding, unexplained change in bowel habits, things like that, go to your doctor and get tested.
Kendi says Black Lives Matter isn't just about police violence. It's also about racial health disparities.
If you have a negative relationship to medical providers because you've been subjected to racism or people haven't been listening to you, then you're going to be less likely to go to the doctor.
Last Friday marked the second anniversary of Kendi finding out he was cancer-free, the same day Bozeman died. Tom Hansen, CBS News, New York.
President Trump may be considering new steps to stop violent protests. This comes after a demonstrator who is believed to be a pro-Trump supporter was shot and killed this weekend. Natalie Brand has more.
The White House says the administration is prepared to help stop violent protests if needed.
We want to work collaboratively with Democrat mayors and governors. They, after all, do hold the police power as embedded in the Constitution to control their streets. But we, as a federal government, are willing to supplement.
The president tweeted, "Portland is a mess, and it has been for many years. If this joke of a mayor doesn't clean it up, we will go in and do it for them." Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf and Attorney General William Barr are scheduled to meet with the president this afternoon.
These are not images of some imagined Joe Biden America in the future. These are images of Donald Trump's America today.
Speaking in Pittsburgh this afternoon, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden blamed President Trump for the violence.
Donald Trump adds fuel to every fire because he refuses to even acknowledge that there's a racial justice problem in America. He's got no problem with right-wing militia, white supremacists, and vigilantes with assault weapons.
The president is planning to visit Kenosha, Wisconsin tomorrow, another city racked by protests after a police officer shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back.
Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers sent this letter to the president asking him not to come, writing, "I am concerned your presence will only hinder our healing and delay our work to overcome division and move forward together." The White House says they've heard from people in Kenosha who want the president to visit to show support for local law enforcement and businesses that have been vandalized. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The Marshall Islands is now banning outbound travel as it tries to stay coronavirus-free. The two main destinations from the Marshall Islands are Hawaii and Guam, both of which have seen spikes in cases. Essential travel will still be allowed. Flights into the Marshall Islands have reportedly been suspended since early March, with some exceptions for the military, which had to adhere to strict quarantine and testing regulations. Globally, coronavirus cases have surged past 25 million. We want to now get an update of the latest developments happening across the globe. Here's Kelly Kobiea.
The world has now surpassed 25 million coronavirus cases, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. The hotspot right now is India, where they recorded more than 78,000 cases in a single 24-hour period ending on Sunday. That's the biggest single-day spike in coronavirus cases in the world since the pandemic began, beating out a record set in the United States back in mid-July of 77,000 cases. India is now only behind the U.S. and Brazil in terms of total coronavirus cases, with 3.5 million positive cases there out of a population of 1.3 billion.
The reason behind this, because the pandemic is spreading in the rural area.
They are continuing on with their reopening, though. South Korea is also dealing with a spike in coronavirus cases, particularly in the capital, so much so that they're considering another countrywide lockdown. France is also dealing with a surge as they get ready to welcome back 12 million students to schools on Tuesday. This is the Tour de France, got underway over the weekend with hardly any spectators on the sidelines, and there are new strict rules in Paris as well. Everyone out in public in the capital must now wear a mask. Kelly Kobiea, NBC News, London.
United Airlines is eliminating some of its change fees permanently. The new policy will apply to domestic ticket holders in economy and premium cabins. Starting in January, they'll be able to fly same-day standby or change flights for free. United is extending its waiver for tickets issued before then. It allows travelers to change flights as many times as they want with no penalty. And here at home, a new system to track travelers goes into effect tomorrow. It's called Safe Travels. Everyone flying into the state will now have to fill out information online to help authorities keep track of who needs to quarantine. This program will replace the paper-based system that has been in effect. The website is travel.hawaii.gov. It's no secret that local businesses are struggling. Casey Lund is in Kailua to show us how business owners are dealing with increasing restrictions.
Retail space available. Signs like these ones are really not that hard to come by here in Kailua town, along with empty storefronts, as many businesses have made the tough decision to close up shop due to the financial strain of the pandemic. But many are holding on. But with so much uncertainty, they're not sure how much longer they can last.
It's been really hard. The first shutdown, I think we instantaneously saw a loss in like 35–40% of revenue.
Kino Canarium co-founded Treehouse Co-working in 2018. It provides a shared office space and other business services for startups and entrepreneurs. They've had to rearrange their space, invest in new technology, and enhance cleaning procedures. This most recent stay-at-home order is putting them further in the hole.
I think one of the hardest issues is the ability for businesses to plan. So, going into a shutdown with 36 hours heads up, is it 2 weeks, is it 4 weeks, is it 6 weeks? We need to have the information so we can plan, with employees, with our expenses, with potential revenue or lack thereof.
The frustrating part is it came out of nowhere. There's no warning, and we had 24 hours to shut, so all our clients are left kind of like, and everybody's kind of in the dark on how long is this going to happen?
Other businesses like Dolphin Excursions with an office in Kaneohe say the lack of clarity from state leaders is one of their biggest challenges. Owner Victor Lozano went from 26 employees down to 6. He's working harder than ever just to stay afloat and is now questioning his decision to get the PPP loan this spring.
We're actually waiting to see what the Fed's going to do, what the IRS is going to do. Are we going to get taxed on this money? Was it a good idea to take it then? We were trying to help our employees to stay alive, have the economy keep going, but we're wondering if that's a good plan or not. We're coping, and I'm looking well into the future, maybe next year, March. Hopefully we could break the back of this thing sooner than later, but we have to plan long-term to stay alive till then.
The co-founders of Treehouse Co-working got into 2 leases right before the pandemic really got serious. One in Kahala, the other here in Kailua. Their tenants backed out as they were trying to expand their business because of COVID-19. Now they're trying to find the silver lining, and they plan to use at least this space as a free venue for artists trying to help the community cope with COVID-19. In Kailua, I'm Casey Lund for Hawaii News Now.
We have several stories from the neighbor islands we need to get to right now.
That's right. Here's a heads up for Molokai residents. There will be a COVID-19 testing program at the Mitchell Pauole Community Center on Tuesday, September 8th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Those who are interested are asked to wear face coverings and bring your insurance card and ID. If you don't have insurance, you could get tested for free if you meet some of the criteria, which includes having symptoms, if you recently traveled, or if you've been exposed to someone with the virus.
And a traffic alert for the Big Island. Highway 190 is closed near mile marker 29. That's due to a traffic accident. I understand there's some big trucks there and some spilled diesel. So keep monitoring your digital alerts for more on that.
And on Maui, we have an update on that wildfire in Pu'unene. Maui fire officials told us it is now 95% contained. It started around 1 yesterday afternoon near the Pu'unene school and post office. About 1,500 acres have burned. We're told fire crews will be on scene all day putting out hot spots and securing the perimeter. Their main concern right now is the wind picking up this afternoon. The Central Maui Base Yard and the Maui Humane Society shelter had to evacuate, and some roads were closed yesterday, but they have reopened and no additional evacuations are expected.
Looking pretty nice out there right now. I know those dry conditions is something Guy Hoggy is monitoring. Here he is with the update.
Aloha. On this Monday, we have a red flag warning posted by the National Weather Service for all leeward areas. That means fire conditions are critical, and if any fires were to spark up, they would spread very quickly because of the dry conditions, the breezy winds, and the low humidity levels. Lighter winds with higher humidity levels due later in the week. Now, it's not totally dry. It's just that leeward sides are almost totally dry. We do have some windward and Mauka showers this morning. Most of the rain will be of the light variety, moving through rather quickly. That will limit the rainfall totals. So it's going to be a gorgeous day, make no mistake about it, but we could use more rain. We're not going to get it. High temperatures running to about 90 degrees, but those trade winds will help to keep us cool, although they also keep humidity levels low, which is a factor in the fires being a bigger threat. Now, as far as the surf, there's not a whole lot going on out there, although a small boost is due into south shores at 1 to 3. Bigger waves are rolling into the east side because of those breezy winds. It's about 3 to 5 feet. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
All right, I love talking about Christmas stuff in the summer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so a developer who bought an old building in Wisconsin got a very festive surprise, a complete winter wonderland. Check this out, guys. There's the old building right there. It's the former National Tinsel Manufacturing Company. It was auctioned off about a year ago. Here's what was inside. That treasure trove that was found in the more than 100-year-old building. It was all this old holiday inventory. It was loaded with stuff like tinsel, wreaths, Christmas trees. This is a 90,000 square foot space, people.
Score.
I know, but honestly, if you bought the National Tinsel Manufacturing Company and you didn't know what was inside it, you might sort of expect to find something. Maybe not this much. So to deal with all this stuff, the company, the developer, is having a special sale this weekend.
That's great.
Yeah, so
why not?
I wish I was. I love the holidays.
Me too. And here at home, Hanauma Bay has been closed for 5 months now, and it surely shows. Researchers say the water is 42% clearer now than when it was open to the public. Even on the nature preserve's scheduled closure days prior to the virus, water is still 18% clearer now. Hanauma Bay was closed on March 18th, and no rescheduled opening date has been set yet.
I can just imagine like a whole under the sea musical from like The Little Mermaid going on down there. All those fishes, very happy right now.
Very happy. And check this out, a Japanese company successfully tested a flying car for the very first time. The company SkyDrive held a public demonstration last Tuesday. Manned with a pilot, it took off and circled a test field for about 4 minutes before landing. Named SD03, the car has 8 motors for safety and takes up the space of about 2 parked cars. The company says it wants flying cars to be safe, secure, and comfortable in the future, and it's hoping to launch the flying car pretty soon, 2023.
I don't know about this one. For our podcast listeners, what this basically looks like is a drone with 4 propellers and a person sitting in the middle of it with a helmet on. But I think under that helmet is terrified face.
Yeah, more test runs are needed before I'm going to try that thing.
It's moving so slow, too. It is not going that high either. All right, guys, let's get to some good news.
That's right. So Hiromu Inada from Japan, he holds the title as the world's oldest Ironman, but the 87-year-old has no plans to stop competing. So in 2018, at the age of 85, he completed the World Championship Ironman in Kona. While this year's race has been canceled because of the pandemic, Inada says he's still training to return to Hawaii next year. The Ironman is widely considered one of the toughest endurance events, and surprisingly, Inada only took up the sport after he retired. So he completed his first triathlon at the age of 70.
He looks great.
Yeah, never too late to do anything you want to do.
Give me inspiration, please. All right, guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now, but we did want to get to some breaking news just into the newsroom regarding some layoffs and the economic impact of the pandemic.
That's right. So a Hawaiian Airlines spokesman just told us that more than 800 flight attendants and 173 pilots have gotten layoff notices. We'll have more about this, and we have some video from CEO Peter Ingram that we'll get to later tonight on our evening newscast.
Yeah, and as soon as we get that downloaded, we'll try to post it to our digital platforms as well. You guys, again, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this Monday. As you can see, the week's already off to a bunch of new developments. Stay up to date. Sign up for our newsletter at our H&N digital platforms as well. And remember, you can always listen to our H&N podcast. Find them anywhere you receive your podcast from. You guys, have a safe day.
Aloha.